Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Fleischer from Chadwell St. Mary. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. Now this week for your newspaper reports, we are asking you to include the passive voice in your writing. So to help you, I've created this short video that hopefully will support you with this work. Now, in order for us to be able to use the passive voice, we need to know what it is. So we're going to start with identifying the difference between the active and the passive voice. Now, for us to do that, we need to know what a sentence is. So we're going right back to basics here. So a sentence contains a subject, a verb, and or an object. So in our first example, we've got an object. So subject being who or what does the action, the verb being cleaned, what is being done, and then the object is what the action is done to, or who is on the receiving end of the action. So in our first example, Katie cleaned up her room. We have got the subject being Katie, the being, which is the verb, being cleaned, and O, room. So we've got an object. With the second example, we don't have an object. So it's just simply the car was washed. So the subject is a car, the verb was washed, and we're not told who does the washing or who is doing performing the verb. Now, with that in mind, we now need to identify what an active sentence is, or what do we mean by the active voice. Now, in an active sentence, the subject performs the action, which is the verb, to the object. So, Kayla threw the ball across the fence. Now, we could include the across the fence as extra information, okay? So the sentence is Kayla threw the ball. Now, in this case, Kayla is the subject, the verb is threw, and the object is the ball. So Kayla is the one performing the action, which is the verb, to the object, which is the ball. So that's our first example. Now, another example is Josh washed the car in the driveway. Now, in this case, we're saying that there's a subject, which is Josh, or who is Josh, who washed, which is carrying out the verb, the car, which is the object, in the driveway. Okay, so with an active sentence, there's always the subject first, who does the action or performs an action to the object. With a passive voice, on the other hand, the thing that would normally be the object gets turned into the subject through the use of the passive form of the verb. So they often include a prepositional phrase starting with by. So, the ball was thrown by Kayla. So this time, the focus is on what is being done rather than who is doing it. So first of all, the subject becomes the ball, the verb was thrown, and then by who? Kayla. So Kayla becomes the object. So remember this, with a passive sentence, we're saying that the focus is more on what is being done rather than who is doing it. Whereas in the active sentence, you focus more on who is doing the action. So in this case, we have the ball was thrown by Kayla, or simply the ball was thrown without saying who by. Another example is this, the car was washed by Josh. Again, the focus is on what is being done rather than who is doing it. So the car is the subject, the verb was washed by Josh. And then, as with all sentences, you could or could not include the object. So in the second sentence, the car was washed, does not include an object. Now, we're saying you should use the passive voice in a newspaper report. So I'm providing you with some examples that will support you to write your own. So, example, schools were temporarily shut when the infection rate started to increase. Now, schools, subject, yes, were temporarily shut, verb. Now, the focus here is not on who did the shutting of the schools, but rather what was done. So the focus is more on the fact that the schools were shut. So this makes it a passive sentence. So hopefully you'll be able to come up with an example of your own. Here's another example. families were asked to stay at home during the pandemic. So families were asked to stay at home. Again, what was asked to be done? Families were asked to stay at home. It does not focus on who actually got asked to do the staying at home or who got the families to do the staying at home. So you would know if you've included a passive sentence within your newspaper report when your sentences starts with the focus being on what is being done rather than who is doing it. Hopefully you'll be able to find similar examples to use in your own work. We look forward to reading your newspaper reports.